Welcome everybody. Today we are doing a video on my favorite gaming experiences in 2024. Now, you may ask why I'm wording it as weird as I am, and truth be told, I don't want to do top games because there are definitely DLCs on this list and also games that technically didn't come out in 2024, some early access games that are coming out in 2025 or games that came out in earlier years. But big reason why I'm making this video is that a lot of games kind of sucked last year, and a lot of the good games that did come out, I didn't really play. So for the fans of Black Myth Wukong, Astrobot, and Metaphor, Refantasio, and Stellar Blade. I've heard good things about them. Haven't played them for myself, so those games are not on the list. So just wanted to put that out right at the start. That's just not something I like to do, is put games on a list I haven't played. I don't like talking about games that haven't came out yet, without having play tested or betas in them. I just feel like it's not something people really should do. Big reason why is Dragon Age, Veilguard. People hyped it up super much. Starfield is another one of those games that was super hyped before anybody had their hands on it. And look what those two turned out to. So today we're going to go through a list of dishonorable mentions, honorable mentions, and then I'll finish off with my actual top gaming experiences. If you guys like more videos like this, be sure to let me know. If there's a game on this list you want me to do a deeper dive into, be sure to give it in the comments, and I hope you guys enjoy. With honorable mentions, these are games that I thought were good, had something going for them, but I don't think they had enough to really make it into the top tier list. And we're going to start from the bottom and make our way to the top. And there's going to be 5 in this list. Starting off with Space Marines 2. Space Marines 2 was a game I found very enjoyable at the start. It had a great campaign. I really liked fun first gameplay. But my problem with it, why it didn't make it into the higher up in the list, is that they didn't have enough content. It had like 4 co-op missions that just got really boring towards the end. That game kind of has the same feel as Helldivers, where it's a lot of fun when you're playing with friends and an absolute slog when you're not. Now, I know they've added more content. I haven't had the drive to get back into it since they've added more content, and that's kind of a big reason why it's on the list. I do think if you haven't tried it out, it's definitely a game I think you guys should pick up if it's on a sale or if you get a group together and try to play it together. I think it's a very fun experience. Next on the list is No One Wants to Die. This is a telltale telltale kind of game where there's no combat, it's just all about the storytelling. And I thought the world environment and the story that it was telling was very interesting, but it kind of isn't very long, which necessarily isn't a bad thing in games, but it didn't have enough to keep me going for like, oh, I'm going to play this a second time or a third time. It's definitely not a game for everybody, but it's one of those games if you like a fresh experience instead of people copying and pasting the same crap over and over again. I do think it's one of those games people should try out and see if it's something they enjoy. Now, number 3 is Helldivers 2. Now, I know a lot of people love this game. I personally didn't find it incredibly enjoyable, but it was something that I liked the principle behind it, not necessarily the game itself. Just like Space Marines 2, it was a fun first kind of gameplay, but The problems I had with it is that uh, the progression was really dumb, in my opinion. Them nerfing weapons in a co op game where it's not even player versus player makes no sense to me. And running around and picking up samples just for some random to kill you in the spaceship, just, I don't think that was the best decision. But overall, I do like that they're adding more free content. They have options for people to support the company if they can, but it's not something you have to do. And overall, there's a lot of cool things about it. So that's why I have it in the honorable mentions and not something higher up in the actual best experiences. On our number two slot for our honorable mentions is a TCG Shop Owner. This game is still technically in early access, I think. I might be wrong about that. But it's one of those games where you just play it when you're wanting a good chill time. It has a lot of cool cards, a lot of upgrades. It has some things that I like from simulation games, and they're going above and beyond. It hasn't been added to the game yet, but the person who's making the game, I'm pretty sure it's just one person. They're adding an actual card battler, they're adding more shops, they're adding a bunch of other cool factors to the game. And I think that's really cool. I also am addicted to opening packs as a Magic the Gathering player. So having a game where if you have everything set up and I can just make packs or open packs over and over and over again, it's definitely something in my heart that I really enjoy and can't wait to see where it goes from there. But sadly, it's not a game where you could put 1,000 or 100 hours into. I've really fallen off the last couple of months and only play it for like 30 minutes every once in a while. But it's still a good idea, and I'm excited that single player card games are coming back that aren't roguelites. Now, our number one honorable mention is Dave the Diver. Dave the Diver is what I would explain as a cozy fish survival game. I guess not really survival. Survival as in things are out there to kill you. There's upgrades to get your hooks up. You get to catch a bunch of different fishes that keep catalogs. There's a story behind it. There's a lot of fun characters that are involved. You also get to grow plants and you get to run a sushi shop. You have a sushi chef who's out there cutting up sushi, and then you have to fill people's drinks that have mini games with it. You also have to hand out plates to people, and you get upgrades, as in people that you can hire, which will do some of the stuff for you. I haven't finished the game yet, so I don't really know how the late game is, but it's a game that I just played nonstop, and I thought it was a really cool idea, and the story around it is pretty funny. I wouldn't say you're gonna really laugh, it's more of a quick chuckle every once in a while, but I think the game is something worth the time if you want to pick something up that isn't super serious. Now that we're done with honorable mentions, we're going to start with dishonorable mentions. Now, this is probably where I'm going to be doing most of the talk, and this is also probably where a lot of people are going to be upset. Now that we're done with honorable mentions, we're going to start with our dishonorable mentions. Now, these games are games that I will be talking about a little bit more in detail just because there's a lot of problems with it that I personally have. And there's also going to be a lot of people upset with me with this list. Most people will probably agree with the things that I say, but one or two of the games on here, I know people are gonna be very argumentative about. So our number five dishonorable mention is Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree. I am not a big Elden Ring fan. I've played FromSoft games. I've beat pretty much all of them except Sekiro. And the big reason I have problems with Elden Ring, it's just not what FromSoft is known for. They went to the adventuring style, but instead of blowing up walls with bombs, instead of doing cool puzzles to open shit up, you just literally ran on your horse, jumped on your horse, or fell on your horse. And then even when you get to areas aren't really flushed out all the way. You have things like the Lake of Rot or the hidden cities that are just nothing. There's nothing really to it. I mean, when you're doing Crosswitch, oh gosh, all the names are so similar in that game. I can't remember her name. Brain. I'm looking it up. Ronnie. When you're doing Ronnie's quest line to get the blade in the hidden city, it's like an eighth of the full area. Getting there takes longer than the actual city, and to me, that's kind of just lame. Especially of all the stuff you have to do to even get there. It's just, what, 10, 15 buildings that you only go through one of them, and then you walk across a hallway, run past everything, open a door, and bang, you're done. It just seems really not fleshed out. And Shadow of the Erd Tree fixed a lot of those things. The dungeons and just the area itself has a lot more stuff in it. And it's a very gorgeous, gorgeous game. Don't get me wrong about that. But Shadow of the Erd Tree had really bad performance for people who had high end PCs. The bosses bugged left and right. I had Renala bug. She got stuck in a corner and she did her slam thing, but she slammed on top of the hitbox of the boss arena. And doing that so made her slam undodgeable for me. On top of that, Mesmer. Mesmer broke all the time. Out of my 4 kills of Mesmer, he's broken 3 times, where he does a move and then he just stands there, not doing anything, and I just got to beat the living shit out of him. On top of that, talking about bosses, Elden Ring has the issue of making the bosses hyper aggressive. Now, that necessarily isn't a bad thing, but certain builds just can't deal with it. Instead of being oh, I'm going to outskill the boss with certain builds like pyromancy, holy, people doing power stancing with strength weapons. You literally have to get the RNG in your favor to beat the boss and not just beat the boss based off of skill. And it's something I have a really big problem with. And bosses have what I like to call flashbang abilities that hide so much behind particle effects that it just doesn't make any sense. You're making the boss hard to make the boss hard and not make the boss hard to do something with it. And they did a lot of cool things with bosses in the DLC. There's a lot of homages to old bosses in Dark Souls, and I really enjoyed that. Commander, what's his name? What boar is he riding on? Oh, the boar from Dark Souls 1. Oh, we have a half fire, half sorcery sword wielder? Huh. I wonder if Pontiff has anything to deal with that. And then you have two brothers who join together where they're fighting against the system that their parents made. That kind of sounds like the Princes of Lotharic, doesn't it? And then you have a half humanoid, half animal creature. Huh, haven't they done that a bunch of times? And some people could say, hey, that's just lazy design. They're using old resources. But I actually think with the whole theme of the Land of Shadows, it seems like they're actually trying to put those little Easter eggs out there. And I thought it was a really cool idea of it. It didn't necessarily fix all of the issues with exploring that I did have with Elden Ring. You still just run, jump, and fall. But other than that, there is some good things on it. I just think Elden Ring itself does have issues people just ignore. Now that we're done talking about Shadow of the Erdtree, we're going to go move on to our number 4 slot for dishonorable mentions, and that is Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm going to be franked up front, I barely got anywhere in this game. I was super excited when it got announced. I was ready to play it. I had it downloaded when I got home from work and immediately got disappointed when one of the first quests you have to do is go to a fucking party. That's not what Dragon Dogma is about. Dragon Dogma is about fighting cool ass fucking giant monsters where you jump on top of them and do super cool things. Exploration in this game was pretty good. I really liked that when it hit nighttime, you couldn't see jack shit. It was things were a lot more aggressive and you would see a lot scarier monsters out there. So the little campsites that you had to put out, you had to put out. But also my problem was is that instead of doing quests, it was much more fun to go out and explore. I finished like 4 or 5 quests in that game, and then I kept on trying to do the party stuff, and it just was so goddamn boring, so stupid, and a terrible way to start the game. And it just really fell off for me. I know a lot of people like it, I know people found it enjoyable, but it's just not what I expected from the second game in the series. Now, moving on to our third game in the dishonorable mentions, and that's First Descendants. I like Warframe. I don't play it too much. I have friends who are super into it. I like to play with them. It's definitely a game that I would play every once in a while. Warframe, I mean. And I was excited to be at the same spot as my friends in First Descendants. What my problem is with the game is the grind. The grind was awful in that game. It took me 2 days to get a single part for a new character. They did not care about people's time. They had no obligations for you to be efficient about it. And the bosses were kind of meh. I didn't really enjoy a lot of the bosses. I think the game's biggest part was just the campaign mission to mission gameplay. Our number 2 game we're going to be talking about is a game that's pretty near and dear to my heart. Or I guess I should say game series near to dear my heart. And that is Dragon Age The Veilguard. I've been waiting for this game forever. I try to stay away from all of the gaming media on YouTube and Twitch because you never really know if they're actually talking about stuff or they're just paid and reading off a script. When I saw people got to do a preview of the game, I went through and watched a couple of those videos and it got me excited. big story beats that you had to make decisions, characters that had cool designs, and hopefully a very interesting story. The combat was actually good in a Dragon Age game. That was crazy to me. But when I got my hands on it, it was the worst pacing in an RPG I have ever dealt with. There's a lot of things I would have changed if I was the game lead. Of course, I'm just a guy talking to you guys on the internet, so who really gives a shit? But why would you release the Elven Gods so early and then try to take a slow pace with character development? Hey, this city blew up and a bunch of people are dying. Let's go have dinner with my mom. Oh, hey, you know, we killed or almost killed a dragon and a bunch of problems happened. We're all fighting. Instead of actually getting our shit together and being like, stop whining, we need to work together. And if you can't work with us, get the hell out of here. No, we're going to have a professor say we need to talk about our feelings and we have to be better friends or we're not going to survive this. It's like a shitty version of Steven Universe instead of a dark and gritty RPG that Dragon Age is supposed to be. Now, I feel bad that most of the people at BioWare lost their jobs. That's never something people should be happy about. Those people have family, they have lives that they need to support. It would be awful to lose the support to do the things that you wanted to do. But at the same time, it's like if you fucked up a beloved game series this much, you deserve some punishment. Now, should it have been the lower level writers? No, it should have been the lead writer and the game director. Those people should have been cut immediately. Who would have thought that if we went friendship simulator therapy talk in a dark and gritty RPG that's had fans playing dark and gritty RPGs since Origins, that they wouldn't like it? No, it's your fault. It's not our fault. We gave you an important game instead of a game that it should have been. So, the game that I'm going to be talking about next, if it wasn't so bad, this would have been the worst game I talked about. This game is so bad. It does nothing well except the combat. Your character is set in stone as a sarcastic, funny guy instead of having that be one of the options you can roleplay as. The characters, some of them were pretty cool, some of them I found absolutely insufferable. Your mom saved you from a terrible life, and you have the audacity to bitch and moan about it? Like, go fuck yourself, Tosh. It's just so ridiculous. Or the artificer bow lady. I thought she wasn't that bad at the start, but by the time I finished the first quest with her, or like the main story quest with her, I found her incredibly insufferable. She literally bitched and moaned the entire time, added nothing to the story, and then she's like, oh, my brother died and it's my fault. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Go talk to a therapist about it. I'm trying to save the world right now. I don't have time to deal with this bullshit. It's just so bad pacing. The mood and tone of the game was so off that it sucks that they lost their jobs. I hope they get jobs somewhere else, but never touch Dragon Age ever again. Jesus Christ. And the top dishonorable mention of 2024, I don't think anybody's shocked about it. It's Concord. The game nobody asked, the game nobody wanted for, and character designs that made it seem like AI generated it. I think the thing that really put Concord in this motion, or what set motion for Concord to be at the spot it is right now, delisted, refunded, and people still meme on today is the announcement trailer. When you watch that trailer, it's like, oh, this is going to be a cool game. Maybe it's like Mass Effect. Maybe you're like outlaws or bounty hunters and you get to do missions. Maybe it's a co op game. You get to play with your friends and there's characters you get to select. And as soon as that thought ends, they say 5v5 hero shooter. I don't know why everybody's addicted to the 5v5 hero shooters. Like you have Marvel Rivals. That's a great game. It has a lot of characters people already know and already have feelings about. Overwatch was the first one to do it. It's the reason why it's still kind of alive today, because they were the first ones to do it. Instead of copying people, maybe try to have an original thought once in your life. People said the combat wasn't that bad. I felt it was slow paced, didn't really add anything crazy to it. And the game modes itself, most of them were dead because no one was actually playing the game because it wasn't anything anybody ever asked for. The PS or the PlayStation head got demoted because of flops after flops after flops, and I bet you this is the main reason why. The studios shut down, I'm pretty sure, and this is the reason why. People need to stop having these copy and paste ideas and actually have something original up front and improve upon more and more and more. Now that that's done, we'll actually start talking about my favorite experience of 2024. These games are games that I put a lot of time into, games that were great ideas, games that necessarily aren't perfect, but something that added to the gaming community. Now, the first one on this list is probably something people aren't super thrilled for me to talk about, but it's a game I've really been enjoying lately, and it's World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is a game I used to play with my brother years and years ago when Mist of Pandaria came out, and I kind of fell off around that same time too. My friend Caleb wanted to start playing Classic together, and then once we started playing Classic, I really started enjoying it. It was fun to go back through things that I used to do with my brother, things we used to do as dungeon groups and raid groups, and an MMO that I actually enjoyed. Now, I went back and played through retail. I did Dragonflight, The War Within. The story isn't great, but I really enjoyed going through something that was a little faster paced than classic. And then once I got done with that, I went to hardcore. The OnlyFans stuff I watched for a little bit and I thought it was a cool idea. I wanted to see how hardcore classic was myself. I don't think I'm great at World of Warcraft, but my knowledge of how shit works seemed like it would support me. And I was incredibly wrong. I've died like 15 times at this point. My highest character I made was 23. I'm still enjoying it. I still think it's a great concept, a cool idea, something that like RuneScape Iron Man, stuff like that, a little extra challenge from a game that you already know is pretty cool in my point of view. Pretty cool in my point of view. And then we move on to number 4 of my best gaming experience in 2024, and that's Balatro. As you guys heard me talking about in Card Shop Owner, I don't like every card game being a roguelite nowadays. I grew up playing the Pokemon trading card game, the Yu Gi Oh games on the Game Boy, and it was with the roguelites, it kind of got stale for me. I was kind of hoping to get a cool game that did something different, and that's what Balatro did. It is incredibly addicting. It's very cool. They could have monetized, made it absolutely shit ton of money. And to be honest, it's pretty addicting. I tell myself I'm going to play Balatro for like 20 minutes, and the next thing you know, 2 hours go by, 2.5 hours go by. And then I spent my entire night playing Balatro. And that's a good sign that this game is really good. I like that it's not really you dueling against a person. You're just trying to reach a number, trying to build your quote unquote deck to make it as efficient to your playstyle as possible. Now, for number three gaming experience of 2024, I'm going to put Chernobyl. Or wait, let me look it up. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. I like hardcore shooters. My favorite way to play Fallout 4 right now is playing a hardcore character. I like the point of it being terrifying too in Heart of Chernobyl. Invisible monsters. You have anomalies that will one shot you if you're not prepared for it. You have enemies in certain areas that are just better equipped than you are, so you have to be strategic on how you do things. You can't just run in, gun, run out, and be okay. And if you do want to do that playstyle, you have to sit through and make sure that you are set up for it. Now I know that a lot of people, as in myself, struggled with the performance of the game. And the reason why it's not in the honorable mentions is that they keep on updating it, updating it, updating it. I think within the first couple of weeks that it came out, it had like 250 gigs worth of updating. And that's awesome. That's something where I would appreciate more games would come out. If your game comes out not perfect, yeah, it sucks for the consumer. But most gaming companies will put out a 10 gig, a 20 gig, or maybe not even touch it and just abandon it where it is. For a gaming company that started in a war zone to actually put in the effort to make it so the people who bought it could play it, in my mind, is probably the best way to do it in 2024 or 2025, I should say. I really enjoyed that there was a bunch of different weapons to try out. I really liked the different ammo types you could use with different weapons. I liked the stashing, the quest, the story, the people around you felt like they were actual people in the area, not just models in the background. The story itself is actually pretty cool. I liked it. It was something that I might actually sit down and play again once I have the time for it. Now, the number two gaming experience in 2024 for me was Earth Defense Force 6. I've been a pretty big Earth Defense Force fan. The first Earth Defense Force I played was the one on the Xbox 360, and a lot of the reason why I like Earth Defense Force is it kind of has the Helldiver Space Marine 2 idea where it's fun first gameplay, but other than Helldivers and Space Marines 2, EDF has a lot of content to it. Its progression is a lot straightforward. You don't have to run around and pick up samples hidden around the area. You kill shit, it drops an ammo or a weapon box or armor to increase your health. You pick it up, it rolls a dice, and then you move on with your life. I really like the different classes that they added. I like playing the air support guy. I really enjoyed getting into vehicles, mechs, calling in airstrikes, throwing grenades. Even the little like shooting trackers and blowing them up weapons was really fun for me. And it has a crap ton of content behind it. I've barely scratched the surface. My friend and I even haven't finished our playthrough yet, our first set of missions, because we're going through back trying to get the best weapons we possibly can. And my top gaming experience in 2024 is Path of Exiles 2. As someone who has enjoyed Diablo, someone who enjoyed the first Path of Exiles, I was super excited to play it. Now, the servers during early access, at least the start of early access, weren't ideal. I've died multiple times because of lag, but I think the progression that the characters have in this game is so great. It makes people think about perk systems. You know, when Skyrim perks is a good example, you have to take the more damage perks. But in this game, you have so many options available to you that you can do pretty much whatever you want with every single class. I did the grenade build, and all of my other friends do a completely different build than I do, even though that some of us are even playing the same character. I have a person who's doing the ammo build. I have a person who's doing crit build. And it's just one of those things where it's like you have so many perks, so many upgrades, so many things that you can make the character your own is something that a lot of games should take notice of and improve upon that on their next game. The areas are very well designed. You'll never really run into two of the same places. The enemies there have great designs. The bosses themselves are very challenging and not just a giant health stick that you have to go through. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I don't know if they're going to do any additional content. I wonder if they're going to do seasonal stuff like Diablo. And I think it's cool that it's just a better Diablo 4. And that's it. That's the list of my 2024 gaming experiences. I know it's quick and short. I didn't want to ramble on too long. I wanted to make sure I at least talked about the games and not really give a full deep dive on it. If you guys want me to do a deep dive on any of these games, be sure to leave it in the comments. Elden Ring fans, I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion on it, and it doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean you're right. I just think it's something that people really should be talking about a little bit more. I'll be trying to be posting more and more videos on this channel, and I'll start thinking about doing a stream schedule once real life shit kind of gets a little back into the norms. You guys enjoyed, do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Deuces.